Welcome back to our 8-part series on connecting communicated narrative sense-making to films, the world around us, and other communication theories. In this video, episode 5, we are going to discuss how CNSM can connect to affection exchange theory, along with some examples from movies and the real world. Again, as a quick reminder, CNSM looks at the ties between storytelling and human health and well-being. Stories can serve multiple goals, like we talked about last time, and one of those goals is often communicating with your family and friends about meaningful experiences that you are still processing or desiring to share. Using this idea of meaning and relationships as a cornerstone for this video, let's examine what affection exchange theory posits, as well as how that connects to communicated narrative sense-making. Affection exchange theory is a communication theory that suggests human beings use affectionate behavior as a way to convey emotions and build community and belonging. It assumes that the goals of procreation and survival are our primary goals, and if affectionate behavior can contribute to one or both of these, consciously or unconsciously, then human beings will use those behaviors to benefit ourselves and those around us. Then, it is important to talk about this theory's 5 main propositions. They include the idea that all human beings are inborn with a sense and need and also personal capacity for affection. The belief that affectionate feelings and expressions are distinct experiences that vary from person to person. The concept that affectionate communication is adaptive with respect to human viability and fertility. The idea that humans have different preferences or tolerances for affection and affectionate behavior, and the belief that affections that violate those tolerances are aversive or potentially harmful. Plus, there's the idea of affection being on a continuum, ranging from affection deprived, adequately shown affection, and excessive affection, kind of going along that continuum like I was saying. The research paper we're going to talk about discusses the extreme versions of affection and their consequences in relationships. This paper, titled Affection Deprivation is More Aversive Than Excessive Affection, a Test of Affection Exchange Theory, authored by Hesse et al., explored how the extremes of the affection continuum, those being affection deprivation and excessive affection, can be correlated to depression, stress, pain, and loneliness. Of course, affection can be shown in different ways, like verbals, nonverbals, direct physical behaviors, and indirect physical behaviors. And these authors used these ways to show affection and ask people if they were feeling adequate affection, too much affection, or too little affection in their relationships. Again, trying to figure out where those people were on that continuum. The researchers found that 49.3% of those participants reported adequate affection, while 45.6% reported a deprivation of affection. That leaves around 5% of individuals who felt excessive affection. From this information, they also found that the right amount of affection had higher health-supportive outcomes compared to either excessive or deprived affection. This means that if you talk with your partner about your expectations for affection and are able to match those expectations and satisfy them with your behavior, that is a huge step in the right direction when it comes to a relationship. On top of this, they also discovered that relationships with excessive affection reported they had less depression, loneliness, stress, and pain, as well as higher sleep quality when compared to affection-deprived couples. So, in general, affection is expected in some way in these kinds of relationships, and increasing affectionate behavior and showing that you care is a great call when it comes to romantic relationships, as long as that behavior, again, is within your partner's range of tolerance. Now, let's connect CNSM to affectionate exchange theory. A large component of this theory, also called AET, is how human beings are capable and need some affection in their lives. We can show this by giving hugs, helping out with chores around the house, verbally stating how much someone means to you, as well as more indirect ways, like sharing stories with them. For example, we would travel on occasion to my grandmother, who lived further north than us. And whenever we'd go to bed, we'd always sleep in the basement as a family. And my dad would every night tell me a story that he just made up on the spot to help me fall asleep as a bedtime story. And I remember, no matter what the story was about, it was fun to simply be in that environment and to share that story with my dad. And that really brought us together, I think, because there was, of course, some stress with travel. But every night I knew that was something I could depend on and look forward to. So that experience of exchanging affection through story was very meaningful to me. And, let's continue with the slides. This theory also proposed the idea of certain tolerances for individuals when it comes to affectionate behaviors. I know some people who don't like hugs, and I also know people who want to be given hugs constantly. This is the same way with stories, and other creative endeavors for that matter. Some people are really into Western films, or science fiction comic books, but there are other people who are not interested in those at all, and instead want to watch horror movies and read romance novels. Everyone has their own taste when it comes to stories they enjoy, and it is the same way with affectionate behaviors. The last connection I found between CNSM and affection exchange theory is how both storytelling and affectionate behavior contribute to positive health and well-being outcomes, which is a huge plus for social creatures like us. All right, let's see how these theories interact with movies, shall we? Our first example comes from the 1991 Beauty and the Beast film, which is an archetypal rebirth narrative. Let's see how these two show affection to each other, Belle and the Beast.
There's something sweet and almost kind, but he was mean and he was coarse and unrefined, and now he's dear and so unsure. I wonder why I didn't see it there before.
She glanced this way, I thought I saw, and when we touched, she didn't shudder at my paw. No, it can't be, I'll just ignore, but then she's never looked at me that way before.
New and a bit alarming, who'd have ever thought that this could be true, that he's no Prince Charming, but there's something in him that I simply didn't see.
Well, who'd have thought?
Well, bless my soul.
Well, who'd have known?
Well, who indeed?
And who'd have guessed it come together on their own?
It's so peculiar.
Well, wait and see. A few days more. There may be something there that wasn't there before.
You know, perhaps there's something there that wasn't there before.
What?
There may be something there that wasn't there before.
What's there, Mama?
I'll tell you when you're older.
In the scene, we see how both Belle and the Beast adapt to each other's preferences, especially when it came to how they ate the porridge. Or, I think it was porridge, I really couldn't quite tell. They saw what each other were doing, and because they wanted to show how they cared for each other, they altered their own behavior to better fit the needs and desires of the other. There was also some internal dialogue in this clip about how they both appreciated each other's behaviors, and a pleasant surprise at being drawn to each other romantically. Then, of course, there's the affectionate physical contact and playful snowball fighting too, which certainly adds to the strengthening of their blossoming relationship. The next example comes from the final film in the Harry Potter saga, a classic quest and overcoming the monster narrative. But, because it's the last film, this is your only spoiler warning. Okay, I'll assume those who have not watched the movie have already gone. So, in this scene, one of the last scenes actually, we will examine how Professor Severus Snape was completely changed due to an affectionate behavior that was shown to him when he was younger.
Don't ignore me, Severus. We both know Lord Voldemort has ordered the Malfoy boy to murder me. But should he fail, One should presume the Dark Lord will turn to you. You must be the one to kill me, Cerberus. It is the only way. Only then will the Dark Lord trust you completely. There will come a time when Harry Potter must be told something. But you must wait until Voldemort is at his most vulnerable.
Must be told what?
On the night Lord Voldemort went to Godric's Hollow to kill Harry, and Lily Potter cast herself between them, the curse rebounded. When that happened, a part of Voldemort's soul latched itself onto the only living thing it could find, Harry himself. Well, there's a reason Harry can speak with snakes. There's a reason he can look into Lord Voldemort's mind. A part of Voldemort lives inside him.
So when the time comes, the boy must die?
Yes. Yes. He must die.
You've kept him alive so that he can die at the proper moment. You've been raising him like a pig for slaughter.
Don't tell me now that you've grown to care for the boy.
Accept a triumph.
Lily? After all this time?
Always. So when the time comes, the boy must die?
Yes. He must die. And Voldemort himself must do it. That is essential.
In this scene, we saw how Snape, played by Alan Rickman, showed Dumbledore that he cared by following through on his plans, despite them being quite dramatic and extreme. We also saw how his entire life was shaped by the affection shown to him by Lily Potter, as I mentioned before, when they were students together at Hogwarts. From then on, he was driven to be protective of Harry, her son, as he was completely enamored with his mother due to the affection she showed him when they were kids. The last example today comes from the 1931 rebirth and tragic film of Frankenstein. Let's watch the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
You stay here, Maria. I'll just take a look at my traps. Then we'll go to the village and have a grand time, huh?
You won't be long, Daddy.
Oh, no. Hans goes by, tell him I'll be back soon,
Daddy, won't you stay and play with me a little while?
I'm too busy, darling. You stay and play with the kitty, huh?
Bye, Daddy.
Goodbye. Be a good girl now.
Come on, kitty. Who are you? I'm Maria. Will you play with me? Would you like one of my flowers? You have those, and I'll have these. I can make a boat. See how mine float? No, you're hurting me! No!
Here, we saw a good example of how a little affection can go a long way, especially when it comes to someone who is not used to receiving affection, like Frankenstein's monster. However, we also saw the negative consequences of not staying within one's tolerances for adequate affection. The little girl appreciated the care of Frankenstein's monsters showed, but when he tried to show her affection by throwing her into the water, it was all too much for her, and it ended up costing her her life, which continues the theme of tragedy in this film. For a real-world application of affection exchange theory and CNSM, we will look at an article regarding how grandmothers can have a lasting impact or effect on their grandchildren by how they show affection to them. The article talked about how love and self-esteem are expressions of love and relational importance to both the grandmother and the grandchild. Because of this, that further encourages affectionate behavior by the grandchild, so that they can be successful in survival and procreation when they learn to use that expression of affection effectively with others. Again, going back to those kind of primary goals we talked about before. Overall, they found that grandmothers are sufficient for positive health outcomes, like enhanced dietary and exercise behaviors in their grandchildren if the grandmothers are also adequately affectionate to their offspring's offspring. Whew! Another theory connected to CNSM and applied to films and our world. Up next, we will take a look at how CNSM can be used with attribution theory in film and the world around us. See you shortly.